Right. Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the January 29th Oregon Tourism Commission meeting. To everyone that has joined us on Zoom and to those watching the recording on Travel Oregon's Industry YouTube channel, thank you for taking the time to be with us. Today's agenda can be found on the Travel Oregon Industry website if you'd like to follow along. We ask that all attendees, other than commissioners and invited presenters, remain muted and with their camera off. Please be aware that the chat function will only be used to indicate interest in sharing public comment during this section of the agenda. Commissioners, I'd like to acknowledge that in holding a meeting today, we met all public meeting notice requirements required by the state law. On Wednesday, January 21st, the commission meeting notice was posted to the commission meetings webpage. Notice was sent through our industry communications and a link to the meeting agenda was posted. To begin the meeting, I'd like the commissioners to briefly introduce themselves, starting with Commissioner DeNovo.
Hi, good morning. Lucinda DeNovo, Director of Sales and Events at Coquel Casino Resorts, Coos Bay, Medford. Looking forward to this long-awaited meeting and very excited to hear the presentation from our consultants today. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Gremmels.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Happy New Year to all. I'm David Gremmels, Commissioner at Large from Southern Oregon. I'm excited about this meeting and moving forward. Again, wishing you all the best in this year to come. Happy New Year.
Thank you. Commissioner Hill.
Hey, good morning. Feels like it's been a year since I've seen you all. Travis Hill, Chief Operating Officer for Umpqua Indian Development Corporation, which is the corporate division for the Cow Creek Band of Umpqua Tribe of Indians. Also, flagship property is Seven Feathers Casino Resort. Talking to you from Roseburg, Oregon today. So good to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Miller.
Good morning. Good to see you all. I'm Heather Miller. I'm the General Manager of Overnight Accommodations at The Ground in Yamhill County, and I am coming to you from Carlton, Oregon today.
Thank you. Commissioner Pearson.
Morning, everybody. Nick Pearson, General Manager of the Jupiter Hotel and Jupiter Next here in Portland. I'm coming to you from my basement because our childcare fell through and there's a 14-month-old running around upstairs.
Thank you for that. Commissioner Rowe.
Jen, I'm sorry, you're muted.
Well, let me just rephrase. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yay. Okay, well, Jennifer Rowe, and just excited to be involved in the process and see all your smiling faces ready to participate. I'm in Klamath Falls, in case any of you were wondering where I am in the land. And thanks for letting me be a part of this.
Thank you. Vice Chair Patel.
Good morning, Harish Patel. I own lodging facility in Pendleton and Coos Bay. I'm in Portland, Oregon.
Thank you. And I am Greg Willett, built, manage Five Pine Lodge in sunny Sisters, Oregon. Don't tell anybody it's overcast today and rainy. And excited for this meeting as well. Thank you all, commissioners, Vice Chair Patel. Today, we also have our Department of Justice Representative Sylvia Cramen in attendance to provide counsel if needed. Good morning, Sylvia. If you don't mind, introduce yourself.
Thank you so much for having me. Sylvia Crammond, a labor and employment attorney with the Department of Justice, here to help out if there's any questions on applicable legal standards. So, hi, everybody.
Thank you, Sylvia. All right. I'm excited about today's meeting as the work over the last several months is coming to fruition with a report from our search firm, which provides much for us to consider and discuss so that we can take the next step in our search for the next executive leader of Travel Oregon. Today, we'll be reviewing draft documents that our search firm, Heidrick & Struggles, has created, which reflect careful consideration of the Commission's perspectives and input they receive from leaders and voices across the state who interact with Travel Oregon. Today, we are presented with the hiring plan, hiring standards, and policy directives. We will have the opportunity to ask questions and provide feedback. This will also be considered as part of the public comment process, which remains open until 4 o'clock today. I would also like to acknowledge that while significant progress has been made, nothing is yet finalized. There are several key areas that remain open for discussion, which is expected during our public meeting. Most notably, these include compensation, the use of the title Executive Director versus CEO, minimum qualifications for application period, and the duration of the application window. Specific to the job title and compensation, there has been extensive and thoughtful deliberation given to these aspects of the role. An independent firm was hired to conduct a comprehensive compensation analysis designed to inform this process. In reviewing the final data, we noted the existing CEO's salary is reflected at the highest level of this analysis, one that matched a 30-year service period. At the same time, we recognize that he did not begin his tenure at that salary level, nor did he start his career in the CEO role. His compensation evolved over the course of a storied 30-year career, and the CEO title was granted after 7 years in the executive director position, earned through deep trust from the Commission, industry partners, and public collaborators. Commissioners, today we have worked to establish a well-informed, reasonable, and responsible foundation that reflects the current landscape while balancing public sector accountability with private sector opportunity for growth and economic development, all centered on uplifting Oregon's communities. The purpose of these meetings is to hear feedback from our partners in the public and private sectors, inform our discussion, and as the governing body, deliberate and ultimately vote to provide direction on the next steps. I'm looking forward to learning about the input the search firm received and conclude these 2 days with a solid job description ready for posting and to move us confidently on to the next phase of the search. Thank you for your continued leadership, collaboration, and commitment to this important work. Now, on to the consideration of executive search materials. We are pleased to be joined by the Heidrick team, crack team at that. Jackie Zavitz, Molly Moore, and Alyssa Fernandez. Their experience and expertise will help ensure Travel Oregon gets the best candidates that meet the needs of the agency and industry partners. And I know many of us are thrilled by their connections and experience in Oregon as well. Please introduce yourselves and share how we have gotten to today.
Yes, okay. Hi, everyone. Nice to meet. I am Jackie Zavitz. I'm a partner at Heidrick & Struggles. We are an international executive search firm. I am based in Philadelphia, and I lead a firm's work in social impact. Our clients run a gamut of all mission-driven organizations, and we are delighted to be working with Travel Oregon in this regard. We also have a good bit of experience working with organizations that have public accountability, that are funded by government entities, and so would bring that to bear here. Nice to meet. Alyssa?
Hello, everyone.
My name is Alyssa Fernandez. I work alongside Jackie in our social impact practice here at Heidrick and Struggles. I'm based in our Washington, D.C. office, but I'm a native Oregonian, born and raised in the Sherwood area, with deep ties across the state. So incredibly thrilled to be a part of this project and look forward to our conversation today. Molly?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Molly Moore. I work with Jackie and Alyssa at Heidrick, and I am also from Oregon. Very honored to be working with you all on this. This is of personal interest to me, given my background, and it's been a delight to get to know you all so far, and looking forward to today's meeting.
Thank you. You're up.
Great, super. I'd like to just briefly share what we're hoping to talk about today, and then we'll sort of walk through each of those things. But let me just explain briefly. So as a first order of business, we want to give a sense of the input gathering we have done and are doing in this process, just so that you understand how we've come to some of the thoughts today. We'd like to talk about the policy directives for this role, as well as the hiring standards, and then we'll briefly give an overview of our hiring plan from here on out. Thank you.
Wonderful. We, as you know, commissioners, have spent the last 3 weeks or so having conversations with you, members of the Travel Oregon senior leadership team, and representatives from stakeholder groups across the state. We've approached this as an opportunity to gather insights that will inform the search and the criteria for the next executive director that we will discuss today, but also as an opportunity to receive transparent and inclusive feedback from your partners, given this pivotal moment for Travel Oregon and for the industry. From our perspective, it's been a very productive and helpful process, and we really appreciate the individuals who carved out time to meet with us and share their honest feedback. Just to give you a sense of who we have spoken with over the last few weeks, as you know, commissioners, we met with you one-on-one over the course of the last few weeks. We also administered a survey that you all completed. Thank you for your participation. The survey was also completed by 6 members of the Travel Oregon senior leadership team. And then we also had a focus group with the senior leadership team, a 30-minute discussion to hear their feedback live. Then we conducted a series of focus groups with different stakeholders from a few parts of the Travel Oregon network. We met with tribal tourism leaders, industry leaders, regional destination management organizations, leaders from state trade associations and agencies, members of the economic development enterprise across the state, and then leaders from arts, culture, film, outdoor recreation, wildlife, and agriculture organizations and agencies. We'll cover in the next segment of this presentation some of the insights that we've gathered from these conversations and how it informs what we are looking for in the next executive director. This is also very valuable insight for us as we go into the market and speak with candidates, so that we have a good sense of the organization, the state of the industry, and we can convey to candidates what an incredible opportunity this is. Before I hand it over to Alyssa to touch on some of the key themes, do any of the commissioners have questions about our stakeholder input process? Wonderful. I'll hand it over to Alyssa.
Yeah. Based on these conversations, as well as the survey input, we saw major themes evolving. And I think what we were pleased to see is a lot of alignment across different stakeholders about the current moment in time, where Travel Oregon has come to and provided to the broader ecosystem, and some sense of where and what is needed from this next leader. So I will give that big picture overview, invite my colleagues to add in, and then would love to take a pause after that for additional thoughts and questions from the commissioners. I think, what was core in our conversations is that Travel Oregon represents tourism and branding for Oregon to the broader world. And tourism means economic impact. It's Oregonian jobs, it's Oregonian dollars into communities. But beyond that, and in addition to that, it's also about the community and environmental impact across Oregon. It's cities, it's rural communities, the broad ecosystem that tourism touches in all of its different components and ways. And that complexity is important for the next leader to recognize in terms of how tourism is thought of in the state. Todd has been a longtime leader for Travel Oregon, really helped develop the organization and build those relationships. And like all tourism pieces globally, there was an impact from the COVID-19 pandemic where there was a cut in tourism and the organization had to adjust based on that. In the years following from recovering, the organization has grown and restructured, including being a bit more hybrid in nature to be able to meet the current moments as the industry is going. And today, Travel Oregon faces a couple of different challenges. Broadly, the market is still really building back tourism in a challenging economic situation with tariffs and tight inflation impacts, as well as political climates that has impacted international travel, has impacted how Portland, the gateway to Oregon, might be viewed in terms of tourism. And so amongst all that, the industry is continuing to grow back and is looking for that support from Travel Oregon. Additionally, it's incredibly important that Travel Oregon is, as a state agency partner, is being responsive and communicative with the state, demonstrating how that transient lodging tax is being best utilized and how the Travel Oregon's impact in the tourism economy is playing to the larger state economic development plan and impact. And that piece has become more and more apparent here in the last year. That needs to be continuing an important conversation and stakeholder for Travel Oregon, particularly under this next leader. So as we think about who this next leader is and what's top of mind for them, it's incredibly important to continue telling that Oregonian story. How do we get more people visiting? How do we get them spending more across the state, both in different counties and tourist regions? And how do we best partner with the state to tell that story of economic impact and ensure that we're touching on all those different places? In addition, we want to ensure that this next leader can also help create clarity and operational stability for a larger hybrid organization that is still sort of getting adjusted to its current scope and feel post-pandemic. So how do we ensure that there's a clear organizational vision, cohesiveness, and in particular, a lot of attention to those external partners that are so essential to an institution like Travel Oregon? Building those relationships, clear communications, spending time in the different regions, and really enhancing that tourism brand. So amongst all that, when we think about who this person is, those operational and organizational skills and stakeholder engagement skills were the pieces that were most clear in conversations, not necessarily a title or a specific industry that this person is coming from, albeit tourism connectivity is going to be really important and helpful for this individual, as well as just a deep commitment to what Oregon is and what it means to be operating within the Oregon environment. Recognize that was a lot. Let me take a beat and I invite my colleagues to add in any additional feedback.
Thanks, Alyssa. I would just underscore the theme that we heard around clarity in Travel Oregon's mission, what it's trying to accomplish, and the outcomes that it helps produce and drive across the state. And this was something that came up because of the many numerous opportunities to highlight incredible tourism and economic development enterprises across Oregon, different needs of rural partners and urban partners, the sustainability and preservation considerations, and so a real desire to bring someone in who can bring clarity and focus.
Would love to invite the commissioners if there's additional questions or anything we might discuss a bit further about some of these overarching themes we were hearing.
Melissa,
I
this is Lucinda. I just want to, I feel like you read my mind. I know I was not that articulate in our interview, but I think you've encapsulated everything that this agency is trying to accomplish with the next leader. So I really want to commend you for that work. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Lucinda.
I also wanted to thank you for your work and the time that you spent with each of the commissioners and stakeholders, as well as the senior staff and industry leaders. And thank you, Lucinda, for summarizing. I echo your comments. I just wondered, and this is a broader question, and it might be something that staff can answer, but does the governor's office have any input, or are they looking at this process as well?
Yeah, I'm happy to say broadly, and then Sarah and Matt, I'd invite you if there's additional context. We are working closely with Travel Oregon's connection to the state government and the governor's office in particular, staying hand in hand with them on the process that we'll be talking about a bit later on. They've also had the chance to review sort of top level these materials that we're going through today so that they're in the loop. So I think our goal here is to make sure that we are sharing that communication throughout the process and integrating them in the final pieces where it's necessary.
Thank you. And I know, Greg, you are keeping in close contact as well with our contacts at the governor's office. So I appreciate that communication and sharing that there is work being done there.
Thank you, Commissioner Gremmels. Yes, we definitely do not want surprises going either which way in that dialogue. So we're staying in close contact with them as we proceed through these steps. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hill.
Yeah, hey, great. Thanks for the kind of the information on this. I know we haven't had a chance to meet up, and I think we're meeting later today. But one of the questions I had was, looking at the title, and I know there's been a lot of, questions about the compensation level. Was part of the process maybe looking at maybe retitling that to more of an executive director? I know it's kind of varies state by state for similar roles. I guess I assume that was probably all part of this kind of assessment.
I will quickly answer that. Yeah, that is one of the things to be discussed today. There's some information available that pushes me to lean one direction over another. But that is open for discussion, and frankly, I think we'll get to that level of discussion when Heidrick is done with their presentation, and we'll be able to share that information with you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right. Thank you.
Great. Oh, I'm not sure if someone wanted to chime in with additional.
Yeah, I was just going to chime in if I could.
Yeah.
Jennifer Rowe, I just wanted to say I appreciated the overview, and it's just very comforting, I guess, if that's the best word to use, to hear that there are themes and that there's a lot of alignment coming in. I know you interviewed a lot of different individuals and organizations, groups, and it's just comforting to me to know that what direction we're headed sounds like it's the direction most want to head. So I like that. Thanks for sharing that information, and I'm excited to get into the next stuff.
Great. So based on what we've been hearing throughout our process and these conversations and our survey results and deep conversation with the Travel Oregon team, we have then devised the following 3 pieces we're going to discuss next. The first being policy directives. That's really what this next leader of Travel Oregon will be focused on. Hiring standards, which will be the search criteria that we are proposing to assess candidates against. and our hiring plan, essentially the search process from this point forward. And so we're going to spend a little bit of time talking through each and determining as well additional feedback or edits we might be thinking about in any of these pieces. But this is the sort of how we're utilizing this feedback process into direct pieces that then impact next steps for our search. So I'll turn it over to Molly maybe to walk us through some of the policy directives that we are proposing.
Thanks, Alyssa. Yeah, so I know you all are taking in the information in front of you as I speak. I'm just going to touch on a few of the themes here and how we came up with the language that supports these policy directives, which will in turn be integrated into the position specification as some of the core responsibilities and priorities for the next executive director. So what you see here was informed partially by a proposed job description that we received from the commission, and then again, as Alyssa mentioned, from our conversations with you all. We heard a significant emphasis on Travel Oregon's importance in the broader state economic development ecosystem and the executive director's responsibility to serve as the conduit between Travel Oregon and various agencies and elected officials at the state level. So you'll see in that first section the key priorities and responsibilities that are involved in that aspect of the role. Additionally, you'll see in the next two bullets the areas of emphasis: financial stewardship and operations, and organizational leadership and culture. We wanted to highlight here the need to steward Travel Oregon's financial and human resources. This was a significant theme in our conversations. We expect this to be a major focus of the next executive director's time, and these points are meant to capture the important opportunity here for the next director to strengthen the organization's internal operations and culture, including how the staff interact with one another and also how the organization manages decision making and information and communication flow. So you'll see those key aspects highlighted under those sections. The last two sections I'll mention briefly here: external relations and partnerships, and performance learning and accountability. These have to do with doubling down on the essential relationships Travel Oregon has formed across the state over the years. We expect that the next executive director will want to ensure that there are clear metrics and outcomes for how it is serving these partners, and continue to build trust with them by showing how they're delivering on Travel Oregon's value proposition. And so continuing to be in relationship and proximity with these partners, and also make sure that there is a demonstrated value that Travel Oregon is providing to them. I will pause here and would love to hear any questions on these policy directives.
Very good.
Wonderful. And as mentioned, these will be verbatim what is in our job description for the role as responsibilities for this leader. And so, again, whether it's in this conversation or following, we'll have the public comment period time if there is any additional feedback or questions around this. We welcome that as we look to finalize this language for tomorrow. The next piece we'll cover here are the hiring standards, and this is essentially the criteria that we're looking for in this next leader. We will use this throughout our process. This will be what the Heidrick team is utilizing to assess applicants and candidates that we reach out to. It will be then what we guide the commissioners and other stakeholders in the interviewing process to be coming back to as we assess candidates and as they move forward through our process. And so we have it divided into two sections here that we'll talk through. And again, this was devised based on what we've been hearing in our conversations and what we're really honing in on this next leader to have demonstrated experience in. So the first piece here is that organizational and team management. We're really looking for a demonstrated executive leader who's managed the different combinations of programs, strategic planning, budget and operational pieces, someone who can lead a team, such as Travel Oregon, that is large and hybrid, and someone who understands the components of equity and inclusion in the workplace as well. Because of the moment in time as well, we added that interest in driving major change initiatives, someone who understands how to take where an organization is today and continue to evolve and make it responsive for tomorrow. And so that real sort of senior executive leadership experience is what we are assessing here in that first point. The next piece is around stakeholder engagement. Someone who's had the ability to engage and collaborate with a wide range of stakeholders, staff, commissioners, or a board-like environment here, industry and external partners, government being a key piece here, community members, and the media. So having that experience presenting and working with boards and with public sector leaders will be really ideal for our candidates, as well as that track record of cultivating partnerships. And so we want someone who brings that experience externally as well. The third piece is strategic vision, someone who's had that experience setting priorities, thinking about the broader business strategy, as well as people and culture and operations, along with stakeholder external feedback, and can bring all those pieces together into a coherent and clear vision for an organization and help then drive that through an organization, both in the immediate and that long term, recognizing how Travel Oregon's strategic plans operate. And then lastly, we have industry experience. We have kept this one pretty intentionally broad, and we did hear that a lot in our feedback with stakeholders, that there wasn't necessarily a specific sector, industry, or business line that this leader needed to come from. Having an understanding of tourism or economic development would be foundationally helpful here, and understanding how all of these pieces interact would be sort of the foundation we're looking for with leaders to have that relevant industry experience to come into Travel Oregon. Pause here to see if there's any sort of feedback or reactions to this set of criteria.
I really appreciate the work here. And I just wanted to ask if the public relations and the communications part of this job requirement is gathered under social, or is that just something that is, I didn't see it spelled out here. So where is that? But it's very much a big part of this job. So thank you.
Yeah, that's helpful. It's helpful to hear. I think in our envisioning that stakeholder engagement, I know we call out media. We can probably make that a little bit more prominent when it comes to that external representation, being that face and voice for the industry would fall under that bucket, but we could add a little bit more intentional language to that effect.
Thank you.
Any other input from the group? Okay. I think, Alyssa, we are probably moving now on to the hiring plan. Is that right?
Correct. I'll just flag that this minimum qualifications then ties back to those qualities we just discussed. These are language that helps us, again, just think about our process as we are assessing candidates. And so it ties back to those pieces we've talked about, years of experience, education level, and then alignment around strategy, stakeholder engagement, and the broader industry. And so both of these slides, that exact language will fall into the job description and be the framework that we use in our search moving forward. Jackie, I'll turn it to
Can
you.
we go back to that other slide? I just wanted to ask if we can look at a broader description. I realize this is minimum qualifications, so just the first sentence, a bachelor's degree in the field of tourism management. I'm stuck on that because I think there's, again, going back to communications, there's also business, marketing. There's many fields that can apply to this as related to degrees. So I don't know if we need to be as specific with a bachelor's degree in the field of tourism management. So,
Yeah, I mean, I think we could, I mean, the reality is, I think we would be quite broad in what would
thank
be
you.
qualifying bachelors. So I actually think this is a sort of or, but we can refine the language to just even be broader if you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think
Thank you, Jackie.
the bullet point 5 kind of touches into that balancing public sector accountability, the previous comment about experience with government and private sector.
Right. And also in bullet point 1, I mean, it does go on further there too, David, to say, or any combination of education, coursework, training. I feel like that's pretty broad, unless I'm reading that incorrectly. I agree with what you're saying. We want to not limit ourselves, but hopefully that's where this comes in. Is that right, Jackie or Alyssa?
I think this language is just meant to be, frankly, encouraging and illustrative. It really, if you read it, includes almost all bachelor's degrees.
Yeah, it does.
Great. Okay. I think we'll move on to the hiring plan. We wanted just to give you a sense of how this works, frankly, how we build a pool, how we assess candidates, how we get to hopefully the final outcome. The Heidrick team is really in charge of, or one of our primary responsibilities to Travel Oregon is to help recruit and build a pool. In a search like this between folks who raise their hand proactively and apply to people whom we recruit directly, it's actually it's a large number, right? And so our job is to manage all of that, both to bring people who aren't looking for this role to the table, as well as to assess those who raise their hands proactively. And there's a lot of work and process that goes in with that. So our job is to manage all of that. We've encouraged that we keep the application deadline open for some period of time. And the reason we suggest that is we wouldn't want strong candidates to assume our process has moved along and to remove themselves from consideration before we really would want them to, right? That's a risk that happens in a search, right? Somebody looks and says, oh, I missed the boat. I'm not going to even apply. And the reality is we might be very interested in them, even if it's later on in our process. So that's why we've sort of pushed out that application deadline. Just helps you build a better pool. It's our job to assess the candidates, do a preliminary screen of the candidates against the criteria we just talked about, put some order and structure and sort of takeaways around this very large group of people that would be interested in the role. Again, we will use the criteria that we've all agreed upon to do those assessments. We'll present those findings to the committee. They will do the interviews, and then finalist interviews will be done at the end of our process, and the commission will then vote publicly on the final hire.
I would like to add a couple of notes here. One is that we created an email account, traveloregon@heidrick.com, and this will be an inbox that our team has access to and will monitor daily, through which we can receive applications, interest, nominations, suggestions, and ideas throughout the duration of the search. Also, we will be working very closely with the Travel Oregon team to ensure that we're adhering to the typical and required recruiting processes according to the DOJ.
And that will include posting the role into the needed different platforms and making sure that we're spreading the word far and wide here as we get into the open application phase.
So I have a question. March 30th is the deadline. What would be the timetable approximately to the final interviews?
Well, I mean, we try to be both planful in a process like this because again, deadlines and goals help all of us stay on track. And also, we don't know what we're going to have yet. And so we also want to plan, we want to plan carefully. And I think we want the best candidates that are well considered by the committee and the commission. And again, no one's getting paid by the hour. So we're all incentivized to work with alacrity, but also with thoroughness. So all that is to say, is our sense is just from having led many searches like this before, it typically takes 6 to 8 weeks to build a pool. And by that, I mean for the Heidrick team to go out to candidates, to assess those who've expressed interest, to try to bring people who could be interested into the pool. Just the number of people, the number of conversations, the time it takes for potential candidates to think about this, to make decisions. Generally speaking, in a search like this, 6 to 8 weeks. So that's why we've put the March 30th, because I think by the time April comes around, we'll have completed, for the most part, all of that market coverage. Where we will be at with our interviews with the committee, with the commission, I don't know yet, right? So, but that application deadline is frankly a little separate from that.
No, thank you. That just gives us an idea. That's what it
Sure.
is. Thank you.
Any other questions on the process?
No, you have done a good job so far, so thank you.
Okay, well, let's try to land the plane then.
Wonderful. Well, those were the specific pieces we wanted to run through from the Heidrick end. So Chair Willetts, we'll turn it back to you to some of the broader discussions we know you wanted to lead with the commission here.
All right, thank you, Alyssa. They will stay on this call. We can bring up any pages that we would need to review, or if you want to look at them publicly again, they're available to do that. And thank you, Heidrick team, for presenting that information today. Commissioners, I hope you see the thorough approach and due diligence that an executive search firm like Heidrick offers to the opportunity of finding the next executive leader of Travel Oregon. And thanks again, Heidrick team. And now is a time where I'm looking forward to your feedback, commissioners, and specifically addressing some of the more open-ended items and all items in general. And I'd love to start off by hearing some questions regarding either compensation, time frame, any of those items, or anything else on top of mind here today.
Greg, thank you again to Jackie, Molly, and Alyssa for today's presentation. I am in support of that 60-day time period. I know that we want to get the right candidate hired, but I think we need the fullness of time to do it. This role is so important, and I want to make sure we have the best pool possible and the best candidates possible for this event. In addition, Greg, I would love to have more conversation about executive director versus CEO. So as I understand it, the statute calls out the role of executive director. And it was, if I believe correctly, as you stated in your opening remarks, when Todd Davidson took that role, he served in that capacity for approximately 7 years. And then the commission gave him the job title of CEO with some additional responsibilities. In looking at the salary range of where Todd is at the peak of his career, and looking at where, as you so eloquently put it, balancing public and private, which is really important right now. I understand the need to to use the original title as outlined in statute, executive director. And then once we have we future commissions can then ultimately decide at a later date if they want to potentially change that and review that salary range. So I was very concerned when I looked at the salary range and thought, what's the industry going to think of this? But I do think, given where we are at economically, given where we are at politically, given all of those factors and what we're trying to accomplish, I think it's the best way forward today. And so I'm in support of using executive director versus CEO for the role. That's all I have.
Thank you.
I have a question. Is it appropriate for me to ask the Hydric team a question right now? Is that okay? I'm curious. So with that discussion around executive director, CEO, also with the compensation, I'm just curious, in your experience, we're looking for candidates, are we limiting ourselves? Do you get the sense from other searches that you've performed that we're still competitive? Are we going to pull a candidate or have a candidate pool that is going to give us enough a broad opportunity for who we're looking for, or are we limiting ourselves and with what you see here, what we've come to here?
And I'm sorry, Jen, when you say that, are you talking about the compensation range, the title?
Both. So do you think it makes a difference in title with who we might have come to the table, if it limits us in some way, if someone's looking for a CEO position, or are they only if they only see executive director? Does that make a difference from the candidates we might receive?
The role is nonetheless the chief executive of the organization. So my gut tells me that that has less of an impact than you might worry. I mean, if this were layered under someone else, like meaning the reporting structure was not what it is, that would be different.
Okay.
So that's my gut. The compensation is the number one factor in every search we lead. So you get what you pay for sure. That is just, I can't make that go away. I do think this is a special role for which you want the right person who's here for the right reasons and has the right experiences to make them material for this role. So to some extent, I think there's a self-selecting and relevant pool out there that will be intrigued by this. But yeah, people have to support their families and think about professional opportunity cost. And we might be thinking about somebody making a relocation. These are all factors that will impact the search for sure. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Nick, I think you had something to say.
Yeah, I tend to agree with Lucinda on the title, just given politically where we're at and how it reads in statute. And I would also tend to agree it's more about the org chart than the title. One question I have is, as we go from this hopefully broad pool of candidates and you guys kind of do that initial screening and recommend people for interview, is that a quantitative process? Is there like a scoring rubric? Is it more qualitative? Is it a hybrid of both? What does that funnel look like?
So we do use the hiring standards that we've laid out here as our rubric. To sort of pull back the curtain, we're not quantitative about it. So to the extent we're assessing against those criteria, I would say our assessment is more qualitative, in part because of all the reasons about numerical scoring and the variance. And but the good news is we do this all day long. This is literally our job. So we have a lot of calibration on this. So yes.
Well, I've been working with Greg, looks like forever, and I think he doesn't sleep. It's just from the outside, you don't realize how much work's going on in there. Probably 90 hours a week at minimum. He's done a great job so far. And going back and forth about this title and wage and all that, I am pretty confident that we will find somebody passionate about this job and will move forward in the right direction and not get too hung up with, we have to deal with what we have and what we can do. So I am optimistic that we'll find someone.
Thank you, Harish. Anyone else?
I think only, sorry, Greg, I think only to stress Harish's point that much more. You've definitely been doing a tremendous amount of work to get us to this point. And as David already asked, you've been in communications with the governor's office. You have met with legislators, excuse me. So I think I am so grateful for all of the work that you've done, which quite honestly, you're the leader of this organization. And I know that sense of responsibility when you're in that role. And so I feel very confident, based on all the work that you've done, if this sits well with you, then it will sit well with me as well.
Well, in direct conflict with that, I would like a 4-day open window on this job and to close it as quickly as possible. And that's obviously a joke, but my inclination was far more 1 month. But I'm grateful for the contributions everybody and the words everybody shared. I am trying to represent the opinions of most here and all here. But it's not an easy task, and thank you for those kind words. But this is all part of the process here today, leading us to tomorrow. We have a lot to consider, and we're going to hear some public comment coming up as well that should factor into our considerations for final deliberation tomorrow. Any other questions or comments before we open this up? All right. Thank you so much. Commissioners, pursuant to the public process associated with identifying and hiring the next executive director of Travel Oregon, we welcome public comment on the presented materials as well. Written public comments can be submitted until 4 p.m. today. Please follow the instructions on the commission meeting notice sent on January 21st. For those wishing to share their public comment now, please indicate your interest by sharing your name and affiliation in the chat. Staff will recognize the list according to order submitted. We request that all comments remain respectful and professional and ask that comments be limited to 3 minutes based on the time available. Comments should be related to the presented executive search materials. While the comments today are specific to these materials, we know and appreciate there will be ongoing interest in providing this commission with industry and community perspectives as it relates to our broader search. Written comments relating to the needs and state of the industry are welcome through March 4th, as is typical of our next in-person meeting on March 9th. I'm going to take a moment and allow Matt and Sarah to organize the live chat happening and organize a list to share with us for public comment and line up the technology necessary to pull that off. Thanks again to Matt and Sarah, instrumental in this process, instrumental in managing these meetings. And they do a lot of work behind the scenes, making sure it comes off professionally. Thanks again, Matt and Sarah, and the entire team. So we did a little break as Matt is quickly figuring this out.
So far, we don't have anybody raising their hand. It doesn't look like to present. So we will, if you do want to make comments today, we would just ask that you either message us or raise your hand so that we can put you, switch you from an attendee to a panelist and that we can hear your remarks. So we will hold for a minute while people make those decisions.
May I just ask, I saw a chat come in from somebody, it's public comment. Should I read that on their behalf, or can people view that?
I saw that come in from Michelle Liberty. Is that right, Greg?
I believe so, yes.
Mhm.
Is that something, they obviously won't be able to see it on YouTube, but
That will only went to the people that are on this screen. The other
okay.
people in the attendees cannot see that. Michelle, if you would like for us to read that statement, I guess, please let us know and we can do so.
Chair Willetts, I believe that we do need to share that comment as it is part of the public record.
Okay. Would you like me to read it?
Please.
Well, I'm sorry, it limits the name on my chat. It's Michelle L on my chat. I believe it is Liberty from what I saw. Michelle Liberty commented, going from CEO to executive director is a big deal. It looks like a step down. Michelle then commented when we asked her if she would like us to read it or if she would like to discuss further. She said, sorry, I came in late and didn't know the protocol. The message was intended for the commissioners. And Michelle, we have heard that and are aware of that as well. Thank you very much for your comments. Matt, do we have any other comments to be read today?
None at this time, but I am aware that because we had the public comment period at 11 o'clock, which was our best estimation for that period, we do need to have some guidance from Sylvia, I believe. I believe we need to possibly take a break in the meeting and then come back at 11 o'clock to ensure that we can meet that standard of the agenda.
So I would say as long as you leave open the space for our public comments until 11, you can start in talking at this point about, you'll want to take into account the public comments that you receive. But I think you can either take a break or start the next phase. But I mean, I guess the next phase was to adjourn. So I would want you to make sure that in case anybody's relying on that 11 o'clock time frame, that they have that opportunity to weigh in at that point. So if there's not more right now, I think you could take a break until 11 and then open it back up at that time. If there's still nothing, then you don't have to leave it open for the full 30-minute window. So that the adjournment doesn't have to be 11:30, but I would say, have a little bit of time at 11 for people to provide commentary.
Thank you.
Greg, can I ask just for clarification right now about the process for changing that from CEO to executive director? Can you just, maybe I've missed it, but what do we have to do in order to make that change? It's already in the statute, right? So
Yeah, I'm just going to jump in here. That is more of a almost like a marketing decision. Like I know that titles, particularly in the private sector, have like very specific meanings and import, but there you can call this, grand, high, important person or whatever you want as a working title. Legally speaking, the person will be the statutory term of executive director. So like you like so I like there's kind of two things going on. I don't have an opinion legally about whatever you want to term this from a from just like a marketing standpoint or for optics purposes. Legally though, the like officially this person is the executive director.
Sorry, go on, Jen.
Oh, I'm sorry, Harish. So it's not changing the outcome of what our job description is, what the minimum qualifications are. It doesn't affect what we come to with the pay scale, correct? I mean
Correct.
none of that changes.
Yeah, no, it is really from a legal perspective that it's optics terminology. It does not otherwise impact what the job is or what that person is tasked with doing or
Okay.
what they're paid at.
And just to reconfirm in my mind, what I am hearing from the search team is that really it comes down to who we're going to get candidates is based on a lot of the compensation, not so much the title. Is that how I should understand that?
I want to make sure I understand the question and answer it. But if you're asking me what has more of an impact on the search and who might be attracted, a change in the title, which some are saying might read as a slight demotion. It is not, but it is a title change, and I understand that optic. Or the compensation range, whatever that is, the comp range has more impact. Both have impact, I suspect, but the comp range has more impact.
Yes, thank you. I just as I can make a decision on how I want to weigh in on CEO or executive director, I don't want to limit our pool of candidates greatly by making a change if that's the discussion to have, but it sounds to me like compensation matters more.
Yeah, I mean, look, we always say titles are free. So to some extent, yeah, but I mean, it's not like we operate in a vacuum, right? So there are all sorts of reasons why we might want to change the title to executive director.
Well, I had a question for Sylvia, just since we have time to chat, is that if the limit is at 4 p.m. today, how does it matter if we close the meeting now?
So it's not, I mean, like the idea is that you have to offer opportunity for public comment. If you want to close the meeting now, I would not say that's unlawful. It's more that I don't want there to be an appearance or later concerns brought that people were like, oh, if I'd known it was going to open early, I would have signed on at 11, at 10:30, but then instead I didn't get a chance. I mean, to be fair, it's open for people to turn things in. Like in writing until the end of until like what did you say 4 o'clock today. So it's not, I wouldn't say it's a legal requirement, more of just kind of like the
Good faith?
it's to give people that opportunity, but it's not, again, if you want to close it early, you could do that.
I'm not suggesting closing.
Sorry.
I'm just curious. That's all it is.
Mhm.
Chair Willits, if I may, I wanted to just comment on the title, and I really appreciate your guidance on that as well, Jackie. And again, appreciate you and the team's presentation. So thank you, Alyssa and Molly as well. I do it resonates to me on aligning the title with a statute as as Commissioner DeNovo has suggested, and I really appreciate that alignment and that point. And I also wanted to ask Chair Willits, when do we discuss salary range, and what our thoughts are regarding that?
Greg, you're muted.
Greg, you're muted.
Went to mute. That's fun. This is as good a time as any. This is the right time to have that discussion to share opinions, to share insights, ask questions. What tomorrow will bring is review of obviously we'll be handed public comments that came in up until 4 o'clock. We will consider those comments and consider what was stated today, and we're going to be looking to finalize pieces and parts of this process, of Heidrick's process, tomorrow. So have at it, and I would love to open it up for discussion there as well.
I think with that opportunity, Vice Chair Patel, we have an opportunity to fill this time. So I think we have a lot of thoughts as a commission on the salary, and we've heard from our legislators as well. And so to that point, we're conscientious as a commission moving forward. And I really appreciate Hedrick and Struggles' work in presenting the compensation package. And so in discussing the package, I imagine we have an opportunity to create a hybrid of that as well. So, for example, if we start at P25 as one of the suggestions as a salary range, and maybe half of P50. So, and I'm only discussing the category boxes that were created for for our review of the salary range. So, how shall we discuss the salary range? Is it okay to discuss it in those silos that are presented, or do you want the dollar range?
I would believe the dollar range is going to be quite pertinent to the discussion, and ultimately it's going to be something Heidrick needs to move forward with this job posting. So if we can stick to the dollars, that'd be great.
Are there any other guardrails that you'd like to establish for us in this discussion as we move forward? Because I'm confident that every commissioner has something to say about this.
Yeah, thank you. So guardrails are things that I ran into through communication with most. And you ask a question of 100 people, we're going to get different answers. I went in discussion with Heidrick, in discussion with the team that is assisting with this process. We spent considerable time on salary range, and I can't say that we have immediate, like, mandatory pieces, but best practices, most important for this industry, most important for this position at this point in time, with a reset able to happen. We settled on this range to meet the needs of most. And Heidrick said it earlier, they took a lot of feedback. I have taken a lot of feedback. Everybody's had feedback that's on this commission. They've shared it with me. They've shared it with staff. They've shared it with people involved in this process, so they could start to hone and finalize the job posting. Best practices based on our reset, based on the feedback I got, and the team received over the course of the last 2-3 months. This is where we started, but I made no decisions. There's nothing baked here. These are open discussion, and frankly, I have a lot of information there. I think you've received that information, a lot of that information today, and over the course of the day. So it's really open dialogue for you guys, and I can add any comment needed from my perspective. But from my perspective, this is a middle ground, meeting the needs of the industry, meeting the needs of other vested individuals, and kind of aligning with a 50% public, 50% private, semi-independent agency.
Thank you so much for that feedback and your guidance on this discussion. There's certainly a lot to consider, and Heidrick and Struggles did a great job in helping us understand further the depth of this role moving forward. And certainly we see the work that Todd does and greatly appreciate that work too. Can't thank him enough for his work. And so again, feeling the pressure too that we're also getting from legislators, and Jackie, your comment it resonates with all of us, because we definitely want the best candidate to fill this role. And so we've also discussed that passion for Oregon, and looking for an individual that certainly that resonates within them. And so there's a lot to weigh here, but looking at, as I pointed out, is the P25, P50, so that 230, and maybe a hybrid of cutting that P50 in half, so 270 as a base. So is where I'm opening the discussion, and again, listening to Heidrick and Struggles, but also firmly grounded in the feedback that we've gotten from legislators. So that base 230 to 270.
If I can add to this, is that it's been almost 5 months that the team's been meeting once a week, sometimes twice a week. We had talk with consultants, and so we've been back and forth, and we have arrived here after almost 5 months of back and forth. So it's not that a number that somebody just decided. So, but we can still talk about it. Of course, it's open discussion, but I just wanted everyone to be aware that it's almost 5 months of every week meetings, a twice a week meeting to arrive at this point.
Appreciate that.
So Greg, just so I'm clear, the industry and the public watching today, they can see what we currently have the proposed hiring range to be, which I believe is the 235 to 255. And what I'm hearing Commissioner Gremmels suggest is perhaps we move that needle up slightly to 270. Is that what you're stating, Commissioner Gremmels?
Yes. Thank you, Commissioner DeNovo. Thank you. And that's listening to Heidrick and Struggles, what they've presented, and just giving us a little bit more of a window of opportunity to attract candidates in this 60-day period. So.
Yeah, thank you, David. My response to that increase is there is a need there is a need for negotiation for somebody that steps into this position with exceptional experience and exceptional insight. And to your point, excited and motivated to enhance economic development in Oregon. I think for our sake, with the balancing act of this private nimble piece and this public piece, we really looked at two organizations that manage large budgets, are involved in components of economic development of Oregon. And we really looked and highlighted Department of Agriculture and Business Oregon as some targets there. I think the 270 number is beyond those departments of Oregon, and definitely not outline something we can talk about, but we were really targeting a space that invites the most applicants from highly qualified individuals and manages some of the pressures we are at a time of reset to set a new base for a new range for this job. And I'm open to further comment. I think the 255 could go up slightly. Certainly Heidrick would promote that as a good idea. Any extra funds is a good idea. I'd say 270 is slightly over what I have seen in ranges that would work. But that's to be discussed. Thank you, though.
Thank you.
David, I guess I came from when I read the exact compensation will depend on a variety of factors. I imagine there'll be some negotiation. So
Right.
I imagine that perhaps that number will go up a bit, perhaps, and then that will be the time for us to make the decision of how we want to move forward. But I appreciate your perspective and your thoughts and reasoning behind your recommendation.
And these are the discussions to have now. This is the time. Commissioner Hill.
Yeah, so I know typically you'll do a wage analysis study on situations like this. And with that wage, sometimes there's director level positions below that, or department managers, or whatever the case would be. Is there going to be any compression with these by lowering the scale that's going to impact some of these other operational positions within the organization?
So I'll listen, Nutterhead. I'll give you my quick piece. For today's sake, the answer is the job description is also part of this discussion. You have seen it. That is not a great deviation from the existing. So the same level of oversight is required. The same level of public communication is required. These things are very similar to Todd's role. It is a title. Go ahead.
I think probably didn't word my question correctly. So if you have other roles that are reporting to Todd correctly right now, but their scale or their grade currently they're being paid is maybe closer to that adjusted new grade at the 220 to 250, is there going to be is there going to be compression on that? Or did they take into consideration the compression from these existing positions that are already working in the various roles of these department heads? of, whether it's HR, whether it's destination management.
Yeah, thank you for that question. I'm glad Sylvia's got her hand up. I'm going to go to her before I say anything for good practice.
Yeah, so the way I just want to jump in here is that this is not obviously a private sector role where compensation is dependent entirely on a pay analysis. And on, comparable and how, what the entity can afford and what candidates you want to attract. This is a position that even so, and this it's a complicated scenario because Travel Oregon is not cited within the general state compensation structure. So there's, this isn't sort of a classic state agency head job. At the same time, Travel Oregon is a state entity, and so the Oregon pay equity laws do have applicability here. The precise manner in which they apply, again, because of Travel Oregon's unique statutory scheme, the precise way that those laws apply is complex and outside the scope of this meeting right now. But for those of you particularly who are more steeped in the private sector, like the compensation probably will look different, and the methodology of arriving at it is also going to look different simply because of those pay equity law obligations. And then the other thing that I would just like to say as a proud public servant is that do not underestimate the draw of public service for highly qualified individuals who have a passion for the work. So, I mean, like the compensation is of course important. But I would just as a general concept, like a lot of people really like public service, and the compensation may not be as high as they could get in a comparable private sector style of job. But there are definitely other benefits to being in the public sphere. So that's just my little comment.
So Sylvia, to piggyback on that, so we have VP positions. I just had to clarify the roles in for operations, for destination stewardship. My question was adjusting that. Is there going to be not enough? Is there going to be compression issues? So those individuals are currently working those roles. Do we have to adjust those roles if we're adjusting that title, or is there enough wage variance that we don't have to adjust those roles or take in consideration for that compression issues?
So I do understand the question and the concerns around pay compression. Pay compression itself is not one of the statutory factors when of the pay equity law. So and I don't personally know how, like, what the, like, are the numbers you're talking about for the executive director, like, are they close? Are they, I'm not sure factually where they land, but that issue is not one of the issues in the pay equity law that is something to be considered.
And Travis, I asked similar questions throughout the process. There's no negative overlap there. There's no, we would not create an immediate issue in setting this compensation.
Great.
I mean, by immediate, I mean needed to be addressed and changed, modified. Everything fits in. And thank you, Sylvia, for your comments. I appreciate having you on this call as usual. Thank you.
I guess as this one of the senior members on this commission, I think it's also important. I appreciate Sylvia's comments about public service. This is a unique agency, as the industry asked, our industry said, tax us so that we can promote Oregon. And today we're a $14.3 billion industry. And I think that's important to remember and that's why that balance, right, between the industry and obviously the the public sector. We have to really balance that. But this is a remarkably unique agency. And so I just want to make sure that everyone knows that we recognize that, and that makes these decisions that much more difficult.
One question I had, Lucinda, you sort of mentioned obviously there'll be a negotiation with the right candidate, right? Will we be bound to the range that we set today, or for the right candidate at the last minute, could we go slightly above that range?
I'll
I'll
answer
just
for
weigh
Sylvia.
in. Yeah, I'll just weigh in there. If you're voting on a range, you'll need to stay within the range. If there's a discussion that goes outside of that range, you would need to have a vote in public session to amend your range and to vote on where you're gonna go with it.
And I think that's an important point, because if we set the range, we can modify it, but it goes back to the commission for that modification, at which point we're explaining why it's a value to go over that total, or we're vetting that decision as heavily as it took to get to this point. We're going back and vetting that decision, coming to the commission for a modification, and allowing Hydrick to continue to negotiate that.
I think hearing that, I'm now leaning more towards the initial recommendation that if we do need to go over, it's very transparent and we would share publicly the reason for that. It just feels very fiscally responsible and responsive to what we've heard from legislators and other stakeholders.
Thank you, Commissioner Miller.
I also think that we probably do ourselves a favor in recruiting great candidates by having the range set at a point that causes no controversy, so that people applying for the job aren't applying under a veil of controversy.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Commissioner Pearson. Sorry about that. We are now within 3 minutes of the 11 o'clock spot. Matt, have we received any input, any additional comments?
No additional interest in public comment at this time, but we will remind folks that if you are interested in sharing public comment, please share your name and affiliation in the chat, and we will organize it so that you can come on camera and off of mute.
Commissioners, I will just jump in and say thank you so much for the dialogue today. This is a difficult process where we are not able to see each other talk and share anything other than just information. We can't discuss this, and it's always interesting delivering this to the commission, not under, trying to represent best interests. But appreciate the comments. I'm hearing all of them, and we'll continue to do the work to move this process along and find us an exceptional CEO or executive director or CEO, however we vote.
Commissioners, I'm just curious if as you started discussing this wage range, sorry, let me rephrase that. In the event that we don't start getting candidates like we hope, if that were to happen, what is the process for us to adjust the pay range if we happen to find that necessary? Hopefully that's not the case, right? We move forward with this and then we get the pool that we're looking for. But if we don't, how do we address that?
Well, there's a couple of answers to that. I mean, there's again, it's complicated in the ways that the pay equity law operates. It is a common thing that I hear from many of my agency clients that the state's pay scale does limit their candidates. And so that may be just a sort of a matter of the reality of the situation. So I think it depends somewhat on where you're thinking you'd want to modify it to, but to modify it would definitely require like a public meeting and a vote by the board.
Thank you.
Greg, we do have one public comment, so I will ask Mandy Morgan. I'm going to give you permission to share your comment here. Mandy, I believe I gave you access to talk. You will need to come off of mute. There you are. Good to see you.
Hi. Sorry, I wasn't in a place to go on video. My question was if the commission could explain some of the parity work that has been done and how the compensation compares to other tourism entities, different states. For instance, my comment did reference Visit Colorado on a Google search. I don't know how accurate it is. Was about 100,000, and then Visit Florida's similar position was about 200,000. Of course, California was over 1 million. So I was just curious about that one.
I think Hydra can add on to what I'm gonna what I interpret as your question. The compensation analysis took into account all of those pieces and parts and came back with a number. Two things were visible in that. One, you're correct, the pay scales all over the board. And you said Visit Florida's at 200, Visit Miami might be at 800. And these are not factual numbers, but they fluctuate based on roles, responsibilities, public-private entities, those type of things. So we went out after a grand scale of all of these pieces and parts lumped under a marketing kind of background bucket. The second piece is, in general terms, Oregon lags behind national averages across the board, public and private. And so when we came to the consensus here, looking at all those pieces, this compensation is centered around Oregon and centered around roughly a 50% public in Oregon and 50% private U.S. standard pay scale modified for Oregon. Does that help you a little bit? And there's tremendous parity. There's tremendous fluctuation in compensation across the U.S. and even within Oregon.
Yes, Greg, that does help explain some of the work that's been done behind the scenes. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Jackie, do you have anything, or Alyssa or Molly, do you have anything to add on to that?
Just to clarify, Hydric, actually, we are not comp consultants. So I think you secured another consultant to do that work, not us.
Absolutely. Yeah. Troop manage that process for us independently. But do you have anything to add on to the parity in these positions as you've seen them across the U.S.?
Well, I mean, I think to your point, Mandy, there's a really wide range, right? And some of that's variance in the role and responsibilities. And so it almost becomes hard to compare because it's apples and oranges in some ways. I mean, I think we also think about compensation just in terms of what does the job require? What are the likely opportunity costs for people that might consider it, right? And what's required to keep strong people in the role? So in some ways, it's not just comparables, but also like practically speaking, what would we have to pay to get the best person given the enormity of the job, frankly.
Great answer.
Great. Thank you, Mandy. I'm gonna move you back. Chair Willetts, if I do not see any more interest in public comment, I believe you can move on with your agenda.
Okay. Mandy and Michelle, thank you very much for your public comments. We will take those into account as we deliberate and come to a decision tomorrow. We appreciate the public's interest and collaboration in this process. Your comments help to serve in creating a stronger and more impactful economic development agency for our partners and residents alike. We have reached the end of our agenda today. The commission will now adjourn to allow time to individually reflect on the comments received. Tomorrow, January 30th, between 1 and 2 p.m., the commission will convene to deliberate and vote on the executive search materials. Please join us at that point. And with that, if there's no other comments, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.